are talking about the strangely titled movie 1BR. Now, this one is directed and co-written by David Marmor. And this is not a horror film, really. It's a kind of thriller, I suppose, with a weird science fiction-esque horror twist, I suppose, but not actually science fiction or horror. It's the best way I can describe it. The easiest thing I would compare this to is the old 60s TV show The Prisoner, in a way. And this focuses on this young woman as she is moved to Los Angeles and goes into this sort of apartment complex where she wants to rent this particular apartment. And all the neighbours seem very nice and everything. She inevitably gets the apartment, but then almost immediately the neighbours turn out to be some type of weird cult. And, you know, in Los Angeles, we have all these things, you know, Scientology and all of that. And I think, obviously, it's meant to be a kind of a play on those type of kind of, like, sub-religions, I suppose, or these weird sort of things, especially that you have in kind of Los Angeles. So it comes across as a little bit inside baseball, I think, because I think there are fringes of that around the place. It's certainly maybe less so in other places of America and even in other countries. Anyway, but they have these weird kind of almost like brainwashing techniques that they want to kind of put our kind of central protagonist in to try and indoctrinate her into this kind of like this weird cult that has these kind of like these 4 pillars and all of this. It's all very kind of like Scientology, like I've mentioned. And ultimately it's a story of her descent into this kind of subservience, or does she manage to keep some level of her humanity and individuality? You'll have to watch the movie to find out. So let's discuss, first of all, what works. So first and foremost, this is a pretty original concept. We have seen shades of this movie before. Like I've mentioned, The Prisoner is probably the nearest one I can kind of think of, but there have been certainly other kind of like high concept ideas that have a, you know, a somewhat similar kind of idea to it. Obviously, there was the recent one with Jesse Eisenberg. It's a different setup, but it reminds me of a similar type of idea here. So, but nonetheless, it is a kind of quite a relatively original story and one that you haven't heard of before. And it's also interesting because it does take us step by step through the process and how, you know, a person could be indoctrinated. And then we can apply that to all sorts of, you know, we think of how people get brainwashed when they go into, you know, very extremist religious cults and things like that, and become sort of fundamentalists. And this gives us an idea of maybe the processes that, I mean, maybe to not this extent, but how people kind of end up kind of becoming like this hive mind sort of to a certain degree. Our main actress does do a great job, I feel, of giving us a grounded and likeable performance. A very average person. I thought that they cast her well, and the actress plays the job of it, giving us a very kind of average person type of performance here. Nothing over kind of glamorised. Everyone in the kind of this apartment complex just looks like regular folk, and when you sort of see them on the outset, they do seem very kind of welcoming and and then kind of and very just mundane. You wouldn't kind of look a second look at. So the actual the movie does have a pretty good arc, I would say. I was wondering how this film was going to end and wondering if it was going to be a satisfying ending. I thought it was going to have one of these kind of like typical endings where it just kind of leaves you hanging. But I'm pleased to say this movie does have a somewhat satisfying conclusion, but still leaving you kind of gasping and looking at maybe something a little bit of a, how bigger the picture might actually be and that sort of thing. To be honest with you, what doesn't work, I feel that its credibility is a little bit stretched here. I think maybe when you try and apply too much real logic to this movie, there's just way too many variables for something like this to realistically operate in the kind of the open like it is, especially when we kind of see the movie as a whole. You know, things like police coming around, burglaries happening, that sort of thing, and these kind of like the lack of maybe outside interference that may well have occurred. Now, in the movie itself, we do see that our main character, Sarah, does have some, some stuff happen that maybe mess up that kind of the well-laid plans here. But the movie, we're meant to believe that this has really never happened before, and it's a little bit of a hard pill to swallow, to be honest. I think that's really my only real major critique with this movie. Outside of that, I think that it does a pretty good job here. All the acting is very good. The direction is very tight. I feel, it's not really a criticism, but I have to say that it's quite a slow film, and I feel if you are wanting more of a exciting film, this is going to be more of a taste thing than anything else. But it's not a exciting film. There's not really any out-and-out horror in it or anything like that. So I feel if you like a psychological thriller, this is an interesting movie, but it is a slow burn. So not a critique as such, but more of just a warning if it's your taste. But overall, I've got to say, despite some issues I have with maybe the story, it's still a solid movie, well acted, well directed, and kind of a great conspiracy thriller, really. So I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.